counting down. We're gonna keep going. What's up, Marge? Welcome to this podcast.
Hello, I'm so
Hello.
happy to be here.
I'm
This is
happy to have
exciting.
you on. It's been a solid month or two we've been trying to
Yeah,
do this. Yeah,
probably, yeah.
something like that.
Oh my God. Life
No,
is crazy in the summer.
no, well, we're both super busy with outside stuff. I mean, from what I know, you've got like 2, 3 jobs.
Yeah, I do. I can't ever relax, apparently.
I mean, to be honest though, sometimes it's good to just I don't know, it's good to be working. I don't know how
Yeah.
to explain that, but there's times where in my life where like I'm in like a grind and I'm going and obviously you want a good balance of everything, like having fun in the grind,
Yes.
but like when you have that good balance, just like I'm working and you just I don't know, it
Mm,
just feels things flow and you're
I
feeling good and money's coming
totally.
in and you're not blowing it on like dumb things because you
Yes.
don't have
I
time to
mean, I
blow it on
still
dumb
blow
things.
it on dumb things,
Well,
though.
yeah. But I mean, like, I could tell you a time in my life where I had a good, solid job, paying me good money, but I didn't like it, and I was bored, and then out of work, I would make up for that with being like, I need to go do this, I need to go do
Yes.
that, I need to buy this, I need to buy, and I would just
Mm,
spend that. It was great money, right? But then it would just be gone. It would just
yep,
be gone. Versus
exactly.
like
And the
when
older
I'm,
we get, the more we're spending on everything. I swear to
oh
God,
my
it's just a
gosh.
new thing, another thing after the other. But that's just what life is, apparently.
Yeah, it's gotten crazy lately. I mean, so we're in the Tampa area, as some
Yes.
people know. So like, yeah, rent here is, which we'll talk about Tampa. I mean, but rent and stuff
Right.
here is insane now. I've been looking around, and it's like a 1-1 is like 2,500, which
Yep.
I mean, isn't. It's just crazy because we know what it used to be here, and it's like, okay, we
It used to be
like,
so nice. I remember I was like, "Oh God, I'm gonna pay over $800. This place must be fancy." And now I'm in a one for 15, and I'm like, "This is a steal, I guess."
I
Like,
remember in college paying like 7.25 and
yes,
thinking
and
like,
you're like,
damn,
"Wow,
that's
this is
kind of
expensive."
yeah, like like and I'm making minimum wage. I'm like, that's a lot of money, but now I'm like, whew, I wish it was 7.25.
Right?
I
I
would
know.
kill.
I can't. I
That was
wish.
oh my god, that was the one thing when I left South Carolina. My
Mm,
rent in South Carolina
was
was
it super cheap?
850 a
Oh my
month.
God, I
That's
wish.
everything.
I wish. But then again, South Carolina doesn't have as many things as we do here,
No,
right?
no. Now I did live, and I lived within walk. I didn't live downtown because down it was so super
Mm.
weird. Downtown had like the same exact prices as us,
Oh,
so it was
really?
super weird.
That's
So I
weird.
lived in an area called, if you're familiar or not, I lived in an area called Greenville, South Carolina.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's super, very white and rich. Let's put it at that. Let's
Yeah.
put it like just to be fair, like it's very
Very
rich.
suburban.
Yeah, very suburban.
Yeah.
Lots of like young, wealthy families that are 30 years old, starting a family out, yada yada. So it's fairly expensive, and they
Yeah.
keep it nice. It's very clean. It's nice, whatever. But yeah, so downtown is the same prices. And then where was I going with that? What were we talking about? I
I,
totally just
oh, the
drew a blank.
price of Tampa
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
everything
The
going crazy
prices.
here, and like
Um,
not even just the price of rent, like just the lifestyle and going out and like living and like going to eat somewhere. It's just so expensive. Like
it's gotten.
I miss when Tampa was kind of gross.
Yeah, yeah.
It
Terrible.
was fun when
No
it
one
was
wanted
like
to
that.
come here.
Do you
No one.
remember when like Outpost was a thing in Tampa? It was like right by UT. It's like this little dive bar. It was the shit. I swear to God, I've never been happier in my life than going there and having a vodka cranberry and really crappy wings with my friends. It was the best.
I feel like now the only way we can get the dive bar experience is like we have to go to like the beaches, like those old some
Yeah.
of those and some of those
Or
bars
they're
are
like they're purposely dive bars kind of thing. Like
yeah,
they
that
make it
is
purposely like shitty, you
yeah,
know? I
yeah,
don't even know
yeah.
how to
And that just
explain
doesn't
it.
feel authentic.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. I
You
want
can
I want
sense
like
the
peanuts shells on the ground that have been there for days, you
Cody's
know?
Roadhouse.
Exactly.
Texas Roadhouse.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love Texas
Who
Roadhouse.
doesn't love Texas Roadhouse?
Right? Oh my God.
The rolls
The rolls.
peak.
No, every time I go, I ask them for like a dozen rolls before I leave, and they're kind of like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "It's all for me."
Yeah.
And I ask for a tub of butter too, because the butter is really good.
I wish I could say that that's bad, but I've done way worse.
Oh,
I've
okay.
done way worse.
Okay, that makes me feel
When
better.
I was when I was when I was trying to bulk up, and I did, I
Oh
gained
no,
15 pounds. But one of the ways I was like, how am I gonna get extra calories? And I
the
was like,
rolls.
bread is pretty high carb. It's not the best thing to eat, but I need it. I'm
But it
skinny
does
as
the
fuck. It
job,
does the
you
job.
know. There you go.
So I like was looking online and like Texas Roadhouse came up and their
Oh my God.
rolls have like 200. It's like 200 calories a roll
Oh
essentially.
man.
So
See, I don't. Thank God I
I
don't
was like,
count calories.
I could do that. I could easily. And I was like, I know they're good. Like I'll eat it. So I
You
would
could
go
house a
on.
dozen in a second. Are you kidding?
I could. Oh my gosh, I got stories. It's bad. But anyway, so I would go on a Sunday, and I would pick up 2 dozen for the
Oh my
week,
god.
and I would eat them throughout the week. But I would get like, if I had three a day, I'm eating an extra 600 calories, so
Yeah.
it was
Hey
worth
man,
it.
it works.
But to your point, there were nights where I would get high
It just have a
and eat
billion.
like six,
Oh my god.
and just sit there and just be like, I'm so full. But they were so
I've
like,
done that
and I'm
before.
reaching for that seventh one, and I'm like, it's so good, I need it right
You're
now.
like, I don't need you, but I want you.
That butter, oh my
Oh
god,
my god, I
to die
swear.
for.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
great. Yeah, but honestly, I gotta say, like, I even though Tampa has been blowing up the way it's been blowing up, I do appreciate the growth it's going towards because I
yes,
really feel like we're gonna end up being bigger. I'm gonna get probably
bigger.
bigger than Fort Lauderdale or
Oh
something,
yeah, I would hope
because
so.
we have a better area. There, the Gulf side is so nice. The weather is always great here. Well, not at the moment because it's hurricane season, but that's the little sacrifice you have
Yeah,
for having sunshine
for
every
9 months
day,
out of the year. Yeah,
like,
yeah,
and I will say Fort Lauderdale gets a lot of like a bad rep for how big it is and how like sketchy it can be. Here, we're pretty good, I gotta say, and like everything's been like very wholesome, and I like that all the new restaurants are coming around,
hmm
and there's a lot more opportunity job wise for a lot of people as well. So like it's a good place to move, but stop moving
yeah.
here.
But stop moving here.
Stop
Yes,
moving here. My
agreed.
rent is going crazy. Okay, thank you.
It does. I will say it does. Like being like growing up here in the area and like seeing it now, I'm like, yeah, it gets me. And then seeing what's coming, it gets me very excited. Like
Yeah,
something about Tampa too that I is so weird to me is that they don't have. There's not like a downtown scene. You know what I'm
yeah,
talking about? Like
they're
there's
trying to
nothing,
make it.
and that's what I'm hoping. There all these new buildings going up
Oh,
and all that. I'm
there's
like,
a bunch of
it's
projects right now that are in the works, and
yeah,
they're going to be opening in the next couple of months. And really great concepts. We have a couple people coming out from Orlando that are opening a concept here, and that's going to be sick. I'm very excited for that, but I can't
yeah. Can't
spill any
disclose.
more of the
No,
beans.
I gotcha. I gotcha. No, but I'm definitely hoping for more of like a bar scene or like a
Yes.
restaurant type scene where just like because it's so weird to me that like there's nowhere. I mean, there's St. Pete, there's Ybor, there's Soho, or like college, and like yada
Yeah.
yada. Like there's all these there's
But they
areas.
all have a stigma attached
They
to them, unfortunately,
yeah, that's kind of
which is
true.
tough. Like
Yeah,
Soho, it's a lot of like college people and
yeah,
or college people and then scary people sometimes because
yeah.
I work there. And Ybor, obviously, everyone already knows that stigma. St. Pete, I don't really hear too much terrible
No,
things
nothing
about it. I
crazy.
think it's great. It's just it's far, and I taking a 30-minute Uber is kind of a lot sometimes
Yeah,
because we don't drink and drive, and we never do that. But it's super fun to go out, but it's something that I only do like once a month.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah. Do you want to do that once a month because it's your choice to, or because you work and
because well
I
sometimes
know
I
it's because
used
of
to
work, but
host I used to work with one of us, and we would host parties out in St. Pete like a lot, so
okay,
that was probably the only reason why I'd for the most part head out here. But every time I've come, I'm like, there's so many cool restaurants,
yeah.
there's really nice people, and there's so many options. Like Tampa does not have enough options,
Yeah, the
you
one
know.
thing I love about Saint downtown St. Pete is because it does have all the bars in downtown,
Yes.
and they're on that like block where you can walk around the whole
Mhm.
block and just
Exactly.
do
That's
the
why I love
bars and
downtown Orlando. I love going
oh
to
my gosh,
Orlando.
that's the only reason I
It's
love
so
downtown
much fun.
Orlando.
They have everything in one little area, and
Mm-hmm.
like even if you go like right outside the city, there's still so much stuff
Yes,
too. So
something about like being hammered and walking out of the bar and
be like,
looking up and
where do
seeing
we go? Yeah.
skyscrapers and you're like, whoa, like it's just a cool feeling. Like and Tampa doesn't have that, and it's like
Yes.
just so much like I think of like New York City
Hmm.
and Chicago. Like I've only visited, but like the few times I've gone and gotten like fucked up on there, and like not that you should like that's everything in the
Yes.
world, but like it is
But
fun to
it's
be
things that we do.
like especially in New York because you're just like you're on like a roof. You're like, oh my gosh, there's so much
It's
crazy
funny.
stuff around here.
I actually grew up in New York, and I in high school I had this like for some reason I loved going to New York City, especially underage. Don't do that, but I would go to like all the clubs they're no longer a thing, especially because COVID, they all shut down, but they were like big staple clubs in New York. And I was going there when I was like 15 and stuff. And I remember I went to Pasha in New York City and Showtek was playing. And I wasn't really like all into the EDM scene at that time. And I was like, what is this? It's weird. I like it though. And I missed that a lot. It was really fun, but taking the LIRR back to Long Island was not fun because it was an hour train ride and you're hammered and you only have your Rosa's pizza and that's all you
Yep.
got
And
and
you're
a
coming
dead
down.
phone.
Yeah. Yeah, you're coming down hard. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember in Chicago, so my family lives on the outside suburbs and we would come and I would go visit and I could bring friends. And one time we went to a festival while we were out there and we took the train back. So we're coming back at like 1 a.m. Same type
Yeah.
of concept. Like you're coming back at the end of the thing. And I remember we first night we toughed it out and it was just like, oh my god, this is an hour train ride. You know what I mean? Just
Mhm.
horrible. Second night we found out there was a bar in the train station, and
Oh
so we went and
no.
got one. They were like, "Do you want it to go?" We got it to go drink. Like
Yep.
that was when it was like, "Let's go,"
The
because you're
roadies.
allowed to drink on the train in
Yeah.
Chicago, so it
Oh,
was
what?
perfect.
That's
Yeah,
so cool. What
it
the
was
heck?
so nice. Oh my god, one of the times I went into this was I think just when I like got into festivals, so I
Mhm.
wasn't like I knew of things but didn't like know. But yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm like on the train and I'm going into the city by myself, and I'm like, damn, it's packed. And people are getting on, kids are getting on, people are dressed up. What the fuck's going on? And it was Lollapalooza weekend. And I had
Oh
no
my
idea. And it was
gosh. You didn't
crowded.
know what Lollapalooza was?
I had no idea it was that weekend I was there.
Oh, okay.
I knew what it was, but I didn't know it was like literally maybe 2 months after my first
Wow.
festival. But
Oh
it was
man.
so crazy. The train was like popping, and like I remember sitting there by myself, and this older family, like people in their 30s, they were like, "We're going for the day," and like blah blah. And they
Oh.
were like, "You want an IPA?" And I'm like, "Sure."
Yeah.
Like I'm doing nothing. What do I got to lose? So I just hung out with them the whole train ride, drank IPAs, and then got off. And they're like, "All right,
Oh,
we'll see you later." And they went to the festival, and I went on my way.
that's so
But it was still
cool.
cool. Yeah,
I
I mean,
love
the
little
drinking on the train
interactions.
is definitely different. I don't
Yes.
know. Yeah,
We had to do the whole brown paper bag thing with our tall boys.
you
You
gotta
have the
hide it.
tall boy, Mike's hard. Oh my god.
I almost bought Tall Boys today for
Oh
us.
my god.
I thought about it, but I was
It
like,
brought back so many
I
memories.
looked to see if they had any high noons. They did, but I didn't like the flavors they had on.
Yeah, I
But
feel.
yeah, yeah,
Hey,
no,
I'm happy with this.
yeah. Cheers, cheers to that.
Cheers.
We'll do a quick cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Ding.
Let's go.
If you're listening along, cheers. Mom ain't raised no bitch. Drink.
So how long we've known each other for a while, right? I feel like it's been a couple of years. I
Yeah,
I
I
met
mean,
like Josh and Jess a while ago. I was thinking like 4 or 5 years
so
ago.
you've been in the area since,
2017.
so it would have been 18, 19 then. We were
Yeah,
at least
probably,
started to
yeah.
run into one another.
Because
Yeah.
my first EDC was 2019, and that was my first like ever EDM
Oh, and
thing
I've run into
ever.
you at events all the
Yes,
time.
all the
Yes.
time. Literally, I
Yes.
feel like
Yes.
every time I go to anything like that, I'm like, I'll probably run into you.
Yeah, I remember that's so funny. What was it? 20 It might have been, no, it was 2021 cuz 2020 didn't happen.
Yeah.
But 2021, I remember we never go to the right side of at
Yes.
EDC. We
I
never go. I
never
remember
do.
and I remember like yeah, just like someone tapped me on the shoulder. I'm like, "What?" And it was you in the VIP and I'm like, "What's going on?"
You're so tall too, so it's
That's
so easy to find you. I swear to God,
that is
literally, you're like a tree, and I'm like, there he is.
yeah, that's a tree. That's don't be calling me that when you see me in person. But yeah, no, I get that. I get that a lot. It's funny. The funny thing is when I'm friends with people that like I'm DMing them or we hey like your content, hey like your blah
Yeah,
blah blah, and then when you see each other in person, everyone has that same initial. Oh my god, they
you're
all
so
look. I
tall.
can tell that's what they're gonna say too because they look up at me. They're like, dude, I wasn't expecting that, and I'm like, all right, I don't know.
Yeah,
Like
I get the reverse. Everyone's like, you're so small, and I'm like, I know.
I don't know. Yeah, at least I know. I have no idea how to respond to it. I get
Yeah,
like I'm like, yep, that's
you're like,
me. I'm
I grew, I
tall.
grew myself all by myself.
Yeah,
I'm telling you. That's great.
yeah,
I
I
can't.
did that. Yeah, something to be proud of. No,
That's awesome.
it's just funny to, and that's it's funny that people would do the opposite too. It's like, all right, that's yeah.
I feel.
Nothing else you want to say? I don't look good. I don't well, like I put on some muscle. You're like, you don't like my new hair.
Hey, it's better than the opposite though. Like, hey man, you're really short. You'd be like, excuse me, I'm not.
It's all yeah, very few people
I like I
have
like
ever said
going up
that to me.
to very tall guys that are like you, and it's like some trend that I found on like TikTok. But when I'm out for some reason, I love doing this to tall dudes. I'm like, hey, can you swim? And they're like, what? And I'm like, you can't swim, can you? And they're like, I can swim, and they get so defensive about it, like immediately, because it's kind of like a stupid thing to assume about someone. But I was like, I feel like you can't swim, and
That's
they
very
get
that's
mad.
really
Like,
funny to do to people in general, let alone tall people.
you,
That
I
is
was like, you get in the pool, you just sink,
you just
brother.
you're like you stay in the shallow end, right? You just
Yes.
stay there, you just stand above it, you just don't ever go any deeper.
Thank God you're tall because you can still
Yeah,
stand.
you can make it. Oh my
I
goodness,
can't.
that is so funny. Do you know anyone that can't swim?
I do. I actually do. My best friend from home, she can't swim, and one time we were having a party on like the Great South Bay in Long Island, and my friend lives on the water there,
Hmm.
and we lost her for some reason, and we look out, she's standing in the bay, but the tide was rising, and she's like, "Guys, I can't swim. I don't know how to get back in. Like, I don't know what to do." I had to go out there with a floaty and put it on her, and then bring her back in. It was so funny. But nothing happened, thank God.
Yeah, thank goodness. No, that's crazy. I can't. That's. I couldn't imagine not. Maybe because I grew up in Florida, like I couldn't
Yeah.
imagine just
Well, it's,
not.
yeah, people that live in like Minnesota or like somewhere that's near water, that
Yeah,
they're not allowed around a lot of
it makes
pools, you
sense.
know.
It makes sense. It's like in my head, I yeah.
How did we go from being you're tall to I don't know if you can swim?
You asked. We could. You asked. Apparently, you ask tall people that all the time. So it was a valid question. I asked it back to you.
That's
No,
true.
you do know how to swim
I
though.
do. I was on
Okay.
the swim team in high school.
Oh, wait, same.
Yes. Really?
Wait, I didn't know that.
I did backstroke.
Oh, okay.
I was
Okay.
not good at butterfly. I for some reason in breaststroke, I my one leg wouldn't do the right like
Frog kick
motion
almost.
for
It's
some
like a
one
frog
would
kick.
do it, the other would go like
Yeah.
it was so bad.
I did you enjoy swimming?
No.
No. That's like
That was the quickest response ever.
that's such a unanimous like most people I know, that's how they felt about
I
it.
did not like it. I just did it because it was a good sport to be in. And like my high school had really good like merch that came with it. Like we were sponsored by Under Armour for some reason. My high school.
You did it for the
I
merch.
went to a private school. And, like they just gave us like sweatpants, like shorts, t-shirts, everything, like
That's
bags and stuff like that too. It was sick.
someone's
I was
mom or
benched.
dad worked.
Yes, yeah.
Someone is pulling some
Someone's got to
strings
be a
there.
little connected to. I was like, who? What random high school on a Catholic school on Long Island is sponsored by Under Armour? But we are, and
Yeah.
it was cool. Unfortunately, I'm not a good athlete, so I didn't participate in a lot of it.
No, swimming was your swim team rowdy, like fun and
Yeah,
rowdy?
and we would probably kick like everybody's butts all the time. I don't think they haven't lost. When I was there, it was 7 years in a row where they'd win championships
Oh my gosh.
every year, and then all the girls would go to states too. I did not go to states. I'm not good, but I tried. I put my best foot
Just tell
forward.
everyone you went down here to swim on a swim scholarship. You were like, I'm going
Yeah.
down to swim.
Oh, hell no. They didn't even look at me for that. Are you kidding me? They were like, "Get that girl out of the water.
Get
She's
that.
drowning." Like it was great though.
So that wasn't your that wasn't your
Nope.
calling. So
But I did cheerleading and dance, and I think a lot of the reason why I got really into working in music was because of dance, and I felt a lot more connected. You know, like people always have their own thing that resonates with them or like causes them to like bring out emotions. Like
yeah,
some people they like poetry, some people like to read, some people any kind of art form, like
of
even
course, yeah.
painting. Mine's music, like 100%. Like I'm not an emotional person, but if I have a song that brings out an emotion in me, I'll cry my eyes out or
Yeah.
something. And I know I'm like having a normal day, but I hear a sad song and I'm crying all of a sudden, you know?
Yes.
And I love that about music. And that's the one thing in my life that has been consistently my favorite thing, you
So
know?
so when you say music, I know we both connected through EDM
Yeah,
and whatnot, but like, do you like all types of music?
all types of
All
music.
types. Okay.
Unfortunately, I don't really like country that much,
It's all good. Not
but,
gonna hate you on that one.
but,
For those
but,
that don't know, I used to like country a lot, but it's a past life.
it's
Anyways, raise a
understandable.
Goliath.
I can raise a beer.
Raise a beer.
I really enjoy R&B. That's one of my
Hmm.
favorite genres.
It's a very soul connected music.
Yes,
Though. That
and
makes sense.
all like very old bands like Queen. I am violently obsessed with the band
Yeah.
Queen. Unfortunately, R.I.P. Freddie Mercury. I love you.
Who
I,
doesn't though like
yeah,
music from that 60s, 70s
I miss
era?
that kind of vibe. I mean, I
Yeah.
wasn't alive for it, but
No.
I missed when people would put out music that was very soulful like that. You know, like when that song "We Are the Champions" came out. My mom always told me that like it was the song of the year, and it was like such a triumph for people, and it helped people so much, like get through a day or something like
Hmm.
that. And we have a lot of those kind of music senses right now, especially like Billie Eilish. I would say I connect with her music a lot more because like the words in the songs and just her voice too is just so like it's provoking, you know what I mean?
It's funny for me. That's Post Malone. For
Really?
me,
Okay, I
yeah,
love Post Malone
especially
too.
the album where he what I don't know if it was his last album. Excuse, someone's gonna read me for this because apparently but anyways, with the album where he was mainly singing, and it was
Yeah.
like 98% lyrical versus rap, which he's
Yeah.
known for. And that was like, yeah, I was like, dang, I just
He's a
something
really
about that.
soulful guy too.
Yeah.
Like I love his music as well. And I love rap too. I came from really just liking rap
Hmm.
originally, excuse me. I I loved it so much, but unfortunately lately I feel like some of the rap scene it's just sort of like cookie cutter fashion
Yep.
and it's talking about like nothing important, you know what I mean? I love J. Cole because all of his songs have like a very good message and he has a very good way of like saying it
Hmm.
too, you know, and it's not like I want to live this crazy lifestyle and like be a rapper and party all the time, but there's like things that I've gone through that have brought me to this point and I deserve how I feel. I deserve to be happy and I just love his music all the time, you know. I like his essentials playlist is like the first thing on my phone all the time. I'll unadd it and then re-add it so it's at the top of
That's
my thing.
Spotify or Apple Music.
Apple Music
Oh
because
my
I still get the
goodness.
student price at the
Click.
moment.
Oh, okay, okay.
It's
That's
solely for
excusable.
that.
Yeah, I would if I could still get the student price, I would too. I don't know. They took mine away.
Yeah, I keep just
I
doing the
tried the
fake
EDU.
verifying eligibility and
I'm
I'm like, sure, I'm a student, whatever you want
jealous.
to think.
Jealous of that. But back to the music part of it. Yeah, I mean, J. Cole, someone think that's why he got so big. Is
Yeah.
a lot of people could just connect and they understand. And you can kind of feel that he's put like the work in on the back end of getting those
Yes.
lyrics out and finding that emotion
And they
inside to
mean
then bring it out
something.
to a song. Yes,
You
it means
know,
you can
like
tell it means something, right?
there's this new rapper out right now that no shade to him. I respect the grind and I
Say his
respect the
name. Say
hustle,
who it is.
but his name's
You have
BLP
to.
Kosher
Okay.
and he has these he has these two dreads that just go out like this
Oh, I
and like
haven't
he
seen
has
him.
this one song called Special K and the lyrics are terrible. Like like for some the beat is catchy and I'll listen to the song, but the whole time I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, what am I listening to right now? You know, and I'm like, why do I like this? But I'll still listen to it. So he's doing something right. Like,
There are a few out there where you get a song and you're like, I don't know why I like this
yeah,
song, but I do.
exactly.
Like, I like really like I have like two of his songs. I like Big X the Plug. I haven't listened to rap in
Oh
years.
yeah, no,
I
he's
haven't
good. I like
listened to
him.
rap in years, and I
Yeah,
love his rap.
he's good. That song, like Texas.
Yeah,
I
but I'm
like
from
that song.
Texas.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
that one. It's good. It's got a good beat. He's got a good sound too.
I think that, but that's funny. Funny is like I've listened to him, and I'm like out of nowhere, I'm like I haven't listened to much rap in
Yeah.
probably 3 or 4 years, and
No
I'm
one's
just like
really
his
putting
sound.
out a lot of stuff. I think EDM's sort of taken over the whole music scene lately.
Yeah,
At least that's what I'm seeing. You know.
it's definitely on the rise here for sure.
Yeah.
It's definitely gotten more. It's like even at events and festivals, it's gotten more and more
Yeah.
crowded. There's more and more people. Especially, I will say, like the last frontier of like where like old, like I wouldn't call us old school, but like people that have been in the scene for a while can like truly have fun and not like be worried about like new people like
Mhm.
not knowing what to do and hitting, not saying excuse me, all that
Yeah. Ugh.
stuff. Is like camping festivals. Like the
Yeah.
newbies don't go to camping festivals.
I
Very
I
rarely, I should say.
I feel that. I feel like lately the scene, especially at festivals, like the blur has kind of gone a little lower. I remember like my first EDC, I was like, why is everyone so loving? This is amazing. Like I feel so good. And lately I went to Forbidden Kingdom. I love Forbidden Kingdom. Shout out Pepe Vargas, you're the best. I just remember like a lot of people were just like very shovey and
Hmm.
like very like I'm standing here and you're not gonna be able to walk around me even if you like tap them and say excuse me, you know, it's just common courtesy goes very far in a lot of
Yeah.
places, but I think a lot of people come into the scene not basing it off of Plur too, and that's a big issue because they weren't introduced to
Right.
it the right way, you know. And
Yeah.
a
Yeah. Yeah.
lot of people need to understand that it's a community that people come to be safe and like feel very content with themselves, not just to party and get crazy. You know, it's not like that. But
It's funny too because like this was the first year at Forbidden Kingdom where I felt like okay, this is starting to get a little
yeah,
too like just people are just here to be here.
yes,
Yeah, versus like in the past it wasn't, especially because usually bass festivals are a little bit more like the
Ag- aggressive,
hardcore people.
but people still have your back.
Well,
you know?
that's for sure. But what I mean is like there's usually like a certain group of like it's very rare like newbies. That's the word I'm using today.
Yeah.
But like new people love bass music and they go to bass festivals.
Yeah.
Like it's just very rare that that happens.
Yeah.
But for was the first time where I was like, and then part of it is just because it's Orlando and
Yeah, that's true.
part of Orlando is like it's very easily accessible from everywhere in the state. I mean, like
Mhm.
Miami's 3 hours, Jacksonville's 2.5. We're 2.5.
Yeah, and
Like
like
it's very easy.
Gainesville.
Just everyone can just come. So they attracts a lot of people. Plus, there's already a huge college there and all
Yeah.
that. I mean, we've seen that with EDC the last couple of years. It's been like
Oh my
wild.
God,
It's
it's
like
been crazy.
it's been
And
yeah.
I remember like this past EDC, thank God, like my friend Johnny ended up getting a table for when John Summit, Green Velvet, and I forgot who else was what they did a 3 back to back.
I don't even remember that.
And
I didn't
it
go this
was
last year.
apparently it was crazy, but I looked out in the crowd and it was piling out to like the vendor stands.
Mm-mm.
They didn't put him on a right stage though. Like that was way too small of a stage for John Summit and Green Velvet. But thank God I was on the stage because I was like even packed in on the stage and I was like, I don't even understand what's going on right now. I was like, when did this become so big? Like, you know, and I was like, I thought I was different, you know? Like, that's at least that's what I tell myself.
I remember seeing John Summit 2021 at like 5 p.m.
Yeah.
at
Oh my
the like so middle of the day at one of the tent stages at
God.
EDC, and I remember being like, "This is." It was the first house artist where I was like, I really like something about his tune, yada yada. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
check him out. Like I'm gonna skip the bass because I'm more of a bass head.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go skip the bass music. I'm gonna go check this artist out, and I had a freaking blast at
Yeah.
that set. I remember being like, "This is like," and he was like 5:30 is like very early. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like
yeah.
that's just like we are like and you could just tell he was coming up, like, boom, and the
Yeah.
next thing you know, he was just like there, like it
Yeah.
was like crazy.
I respect the heck out of his like the way he handles things. He portrays himself to be a very big party guy,
Yeah,
but he's very good at branding himself and he's very good at catering to what people are interested in and
yeah,
he's actually not that big of a partier from what I've understood. A lot of my friends are close with him, but I personally only met him like once and I always hear that like he doesn't actually party like that, but he is good at marketing himself the correct way. And I think that him coming from an accounting background was the best thing he could have did because it's like a formula basically how to get to success and he freaking did it, you know. I give him so much props. I did accounting myself in college and I was supposed to be an accountant and then I ended up not doing it, so I like kind of relate to him a little bit, but I am not John Summit obviously.
what would you say that formula is? You said either or you just think there is a formula? What
I
you're saying?
think there's just a formula of balance of life, of creativity, discipline, and like content creation, and being able to cater to what people want
Mm-hmm.
and like marketing yourself in the proper way. I think a lot of the times there's a lot of people that have a lot of potential creatively, but they don't have the tools or the understanding to like market themselves in the
Yeah.
right way or even just have a consistent schedule to get things out, you know. And
Yep.
he always says that he always at least works on music for a couple hours a day. There's always time set for that. And he's always on tour, you know. And if he can do it, anybody can do it when they're not on tour, you know. So
Right.
it gives me a big there's no excuse, you know what I mean? And not that there's no excuse, but there's no reason not to,
Yeah,
you know.
it's that
So
discipline factor.
yeah.
I've talked about this in previous podcasts and
Oh, and
whatnot, but
I
it's a
love
big
that too because it's I'm a firm believer in discipline and like if you can't discipline yourself and get yourself where you want to go, how do you expect anybody else to do it for you? You
right.
know, and no one's
Granted,
going to.
agreed. No one. It's not on anybody to do it. That's for
Yes.
sure. Like, if you want it, you're gonna go get it, type of thing.
Yep.
But it is. It's weird because I almost like I understand where people go discipline's hard. Like I do get it
Mm-hmm.
because there's other times where like you gotta maybe you gotta figure out which avenue you want to go, figure out that schedule, and then once you get it going, then get it rocking and
Yeah.
rolling. But I will say that like momentum building is where it starts really slow and it's hard to get that grip. Like
Yeah.
if you're hiking up a mountain or a side of a mountain, right? It's hard with any shoe to just get that right grip as
Mm-hmm.
you're going. And once you get that movement, and then you start just building off of it. Next thing you know, you're at
Yep.
the top and you're there. But it takes a little while to get going, and you have to really build those base level
Yeah.
foundation blocks to like get that up to the pyramid, really, you know?
I always say that the biggest problem with people trying to accomplish something is just the first step in general. Like we were kind of talking about this earlier,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
like for me at least, it's so hard to just do the first step, and it seems very intimidating with whatever you plan to do. If you like want to get a new job, or you want to like ask somebody out or something like that, just making the first step is the hardest part, because it's just being able to accept that like something's going to change in my life, and I'm doing it because I want to, and it's for the best for me. Like, when I applied to one of us, I didn't really apply. I kind of harassed the owner of it, but like, my biggest thing, I was in a weird spot in my life, and I graduated college. I didn't really have a plan of where I was going and what I wanted to do, but I knew that I loved music, and I knew that I wanted to be a part of the
Hmm.
community on the back end of like the business end, because I have a good business degree, and I came from a family owned company. So I was like, let's find something where it's kind of cohesive. And my friend Breezy was working with one of us. She's a resident for them. And I asked her, I was like, hey, are they hiring at all? Like, do they need any extra help? Like, just from a business perspective, like,
Yeah.
could you ask him for me? And she was like, yeah, totally. She gave me Door's email. Door, I love you. And I emailed him my resume, and I said, hi, I'm Margie, I'm Breezy. But it took me like 2 weeks just to send the first email,
Oh my gosh.
because
Yeah, I get
it's just
that.
so stressful in a way. But in reality, it's like, if you don't do it, you're never going to get any results. If you do it, yes, you could get turned down. And that's a scary, rejection is scary.
Of course.
But if you don't ever do it, you don't even have that opportunity.
You know what's really funny is when you really want something is when it's hardest to get
Yes.
started.
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of noticed that as I've done things. It's like things that don't matter, you're just like, I'll do it. I get it
Yeah.
done and get it over with. You know what I mean? You're like, it's like just get it done.
Mm-hmm.
Versus like when you really want something, you sit there and you're like, oh my gosh, should I do it this way? Should I do it that
Mm-hmm.
way? And you start thinking about it over and over, and like, and then you procrastinate or whatever, and then you
Yes.
finally just get to a point where like, I gotta do it because I really want to do it, and I'll just figure it out. But it's weird how that like it's a good indicator of like when you want something, because if you when you want something, you do have that like, what if I do this wrong? You
Mm-hmm.
get that like second thought, and it's like, no, you just gotta do something
But
to
it's a
get you to
good
start going.
thing,
It
because
is a
that
good thing.
means you
Yes, that's
care,
what I'm getting at. Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's people need to ride with things that they care about too. And I the second I sent the email, I was like, oh my god, like, I don't think I'm gonna get the job, but like, at least I made the first step. I'm proud of
yeah,
myself for doing that, and it was such a weight off my shoulders just sending the email, and it ended up working out. I had an interview with him for 40 minutes. He called me an hour later, and he goes, come back, we got a meeting. And then I was working for them, and it was the best experience to get me into the position that I am at the moment. And I learned so much from that job, and I would have never learned anything or saw any of the things that I did and met any of the people that I met if I never sent that email. And it's just like the small little things build up to huge things, and if you don't make the first step, it's never going to happen. You just waste so much opportunity. So I always tell people, I'm like, if you're scared, just do it. Just go
yeah.
for it. And worst comes to worst, it doesn't work out. That's fine, but at least you made the effort, you
Yeah,
know?
it's again, it's a good sign if you're scared. It means you
Yes.
care about it and you like it. And if anything, that's like so much more of an indicator that you're on the right path of things
Yep.
than the wrong side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the main thing. It's something, but I mean, for a long time, I would never. It took me a while to register that, like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm nervous and I want this so bad that's why I'm like procrastinating
Yeah.
from doing it. Versus the opposite, where you think like, oh, it doesn't matter, and yeah,
The
it's
fear
interesting.
the fear of rejection kicks people's butts a
Mm-hmm.
lot worse than actual rejection, I would say. A lot of people won't go for something because they can't handle what could possibly happen, but if you don't even try, you don't even have the opportunity for it to go positively, you
Right.
know? So, and that's a big thing that I've learned in life. I was very timid with a lot of things growing up, especially in like college. I wouldn't go for, but then when I eventually did, I was like, why didn't I just do this in the first place? It was so easy.
Yeah.
Like, it's just go for it. And like, worst comes to worst, you don't get it, but you pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, and you move on to the next thing.
Yeah,
So,
I had someone in the industry tell me recently, like, hey, you gotta you almost because you gotta start asking for things, like, you know what I
yes.
mean, and
Mm-hmm.
that's something I personally I've never been that person. You're good.
Yeah.
I've never been that person with anything. I
Yeah.
hate to be that person and be like, or even like they not even just ask for things, but also just like, hey, I do this.
Mm-hmm.
Like in a way, I've always just been so against that. Like
Yeah,
it's
I,
not me.
me too.
But they were like, you need to just start doing it. Like you meet somebody, oh, I got you got a podcast, I do this and that X Y Z. You just need to say it. Like get
Yeah,
used to saying it and start saying it, because eventually it might lead to a road. Like you said, like we are talking about, it might just open a door. You don't know,
yeah.
or it might get you a guess. It might whatever. You just don't know. But
Mm.
it's funny because I remember them saying it to me, and it sticks with me to this day. Where I'm like, they're right. I need to start
Yeah.
saying it more and more because I don't. But it's so yeah. There's a part of me that's like I don't.
I know. I know it's tough sometimes. I'm very bad at asking people for assistance or like help or anything, but there's no shame in that, especially if you are very interested and you actually care about something. Like anyone will be willing to help you if they can tell that you're very invested in the situation.
Yeah.
I actually helped my friend Mackenzie. She she was just like turned 21 and I was working with one of us and she was looking for like a little side opportunity, especially in the music industry because she loves it. And I told her, I was like, hey, why don't you come help me out on this Halloween event that we're doing? Like you could just kind of like be there where we need you and then maybe we could do something in the future. She helped us out that Halloween event. She absolutely kicked butt and she was super helpful. Like anything I couldn't possibly do at the time as like a stage manager, I would have her do, and she was really on top of it, and I was really proud of her. So we ended up giving her a VIP director position with one of us, and she made so many connections through contacts of like VIP directing and like just booking tables and things like that. And she would still help me with the AR stuff. Now she's managing Taylor Lace at the Ritz. He's the main resident on Saturdays, and JMO. He also goes by Billy Clubs. But she would have never gotten those two opportunities if she never worked for one of us too. And she was really helpful too. And when you find people that care and they actually make an effort to do really well, they're so valuable too. Like human capital, quality human capital
Hmm.
is like the best thing for a company, and a lot of people don't understand that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That gets where like the bigger the company, the smaller that caring part goes,
Yes.
unfortunately. But
Yeah.
no, I agree. And then the other flip side of that is like when you're given that opportunity, so important that you do give it your all because you've got that chance. I mean, because she
Hmm.
could have taken it and then just moonsied
Just been
around
there to
and been
party and
there.
be on
Right,
the
right,
stage.
right.
But she went full fledged, and I'm a firm believer of helping people out that want to be helped out and deserve to be helped out, and I would put my money on her any day. She's going to do great things. I'm telling her right now. That's my best friend. I love
No, that's awesome.
her.
No, that's awesome. I mean, it's a great story to hear that. 'Cause, someone out there probably wants to hear that too.
Yeah.
It's like take that step, work hard at it, and
Hmm.
it's gonna open a
And
door. I
and
mean,
asking your friends for help is not that bad. Like I remember her calling me and being like, "Can you give me a job?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's figure it out. Let's do a little test run, see what happens, and I'll let you know what goes on." And everybody was like, "She was great," and I was like, "There we go. Here, you got a job now." And that's just how it works. If you just ask for an opportunity and maybe offer your time before and say, "Hey, I'd like to prove to you," that goes such a long way.
yeah,
You know?
that's a big trick of the trade is if you offer your time for free and
Yes.
you kick ass, they're gonna reward you
Hmm.
for that.
But
Generally speaking, most will reward you for
But
that.
one thing I will say that kind of negates that a little bit is that don't always volunteer your time for free because your time is worth something. And when you offer it too much for what you don't believe you're worth, people will take you as cheap as you will sell yourself,
That is true.
you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah.
And
Have
I've
respect for
learned
yourself,
that.
but
Yes.
but offer what you can. Yeah, yeah. Agreed.
Be available, be there, but make sure you're being taken care of as well for your time,
Yep,
you
absolutely.
know?
Yeah, that respect for yourself is definitely key. Just in general. I mean, with even with a job, with your oh my gosh, what was I gonna say? Your discipline, your
Yeah.
dedication, whatever it is. Yeah, have respect for yourself first, and then kind of flow from there,
Yeah.
and it works
Exactly.
itself out. So I'm gonna pivot a little bit.
Yeah.
How did you get started with one of us? I know that's something I want to know about. Like, I know you. And tell us your position there.
Yeah, so I was at first I was just the administrative assistant for the CEO because he just needed a lot of help with just the admin work because he's a great creative, but it's so hard to just keep on top of like the books or like making sure all the writers for the artists are okay, especially like social media content, stuff like that, and like generally getting all the people that work for the events together. It's
Hmm.
very hard to do as a single person. And he did have two other partners, but they also have their own companies, so they were kind of more dedicated to that, but they were really helpful too. He really needed help with that. I have an accounting degree, so I also came in and helped them as like their internal accountant and did all the
Nice.
payables and things like that, payrolls, and a lot of boring work, people would think. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I went from being the administrative assistant to basically like the operational director because I was in the office every day for the most part. He was on his other companies that he was doing. He did a lot of real estate, and he can't invest all his time because it's hard to do that. But
Yep.
I was like my own boss, which was cool. I'd come in every day, make sure I check the administrative email. I would check on all the books. I would make sure that whatever event that we were going to have next, I had all the writers. We had all the deposits in for the artists. We had our lineup put together, especially all of my promoters too. I had to make sure that they were all up to date with like our certain flyers, and they were understanding where the table prices were. There was just so many little tiny factors that turned into a big mountain.
Right.
And one thing I'll say about people, if they are trying to get into this certain industry, you have to be able to thrive in chaos because things will go south very quickly. And if you can't handle that, that's not good. You have to find a solution like immediately. Like we've had certain situations where it's like maybe the weather was going wrong, or we had a certain piece of equipment that was just not working for some
Hmm.
reason, and you just got to think on your feet and call as many people as you know that could fix it possibly and get it done. And I felt like I was sort of, during the events at least, I would be a little bit of a firefighter in a way because we'd have tiny little fires start, and then I'd go over and I'd just squash it immediately, and make sure that it didn't even get to my boss because I didn't want to stress him out too. And it was it was probably the best like 8 months of my life. I loved it so much, and especially during the events, it was great. And at the end of the event, I'd look out into the crowd, and we'd always have like a sold out show, and I'd see all these people smiling and having a great time, and I'd be like, yeah, we did that, And me and my boss would always have a cute little moment, and like we'd hug and be like, you did good.
Is that kind of why you think you got into it, for like giving people the joy of like seeing these events put together? Is that kind of like part of it?
Sort of, yeah. I
Yeah.
think that I've personally gotten a lot of joy from certain events like that, and just having great moments with my friends, and I wanted to help create someone having an experience like that because I'll never forget some of the best nights of my life with my friends, just listening to great music,
Yeah.
having a nice drink and dancing with them. It's You can't beat it,
No, I can't beat it.
and
I'm with you there.
one thing about one of us is that they don't just focus on the music, they're very good at doing a whole experience. So there's not just the DJ and the artist, there's little side activities. We also have performances outside of music. We'll have live art maybe. They always have usually like dancers. We have fire dancers were like a big thing for Dor. He loves
Hmm.
those guys. And aerial dancers too. They were super cool, but it was just a whole experience, and you just felt like all sort of creative aspects were being like thrown at you, and you're like just absorbing all of it at the same time. It was awesome, I
No,
gotta say.
100%. So take us through the day. Let's go like from an event standpoint, the day of
Yeah.
the event. Kind of walk us through like a little bit of the day-to-day schedule. Like how does that work? You wake up, it's hectic as can be,
Yeah.
and you're just like go 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 from there until,
For
it ends.
me,
But
I was more during the actual events, the AR director, to be honest.
okay.
I made sure that, like, I wake up usually around 8 a.m. to about 20 missed calls from my boss of him freaking out about something. And I would call him back and be like, I got it. Don't worry about it. And he'd be like, okay, I'll be calm for a minute. I was like, go deal with it. You got to deal with it. I got it. Um, a lot of the times I'd wake up, I'd go right to the office. I'd make sure I got all the last pieces that we needed from the office, like our POS systems that the bartenders use, and like maybe like a CO2 gun or like an inflatable thing that we had.
Yeah.
I'd call my boss a bunch of times and be like, we have everything, correct? You need me to grab anything else? And he would say, no, you're good. I would make sure to grab more things. I would grab more wristbands, anything like that. I'd head over to the venue usually, and everything would be, for the most part, stage wise, would be set up, but we'd be doing sound check in the morning, and I would be on my computer for the most part, checking flight times for all the artists, making sure that they're getting checked into their hotels okay, making sure that there wasn't any change in their reservations or like what they're needing. I made sure that their hospitality riders were always on point. My biggest thing was I want to see their riders put away in a secure place that no one's going to touch, and it's going to be ready for when they get there, because some artists would decide to come like an hour early, and you got to be ready for that, and you got to
Right.
make sure that they feel welcome and that they're appreciated too. So that would always be my number one thing. I'd communicate with their tour managers for the most part, see that they're checked in. So sometimes we would take them out to dinner before, but that for the most part was my boss doing that because I had to be back there and make sure everything was still going smoothly. um And then, yeah, basically we'd have all the staff come in. We'd have a opening meeting, and my boss would give a really good pep talk to everybody, and he'd thank everyone for coming. We'd send everybody off to their spots. I would make sure that all the bars were put in the correct positions, all of our equipment, especially lighting, stuff like that, was going well. We always had this running joke that he never wanted a CO2 gun at first, but the day of, he'd always be like, "Can you get me a CO2 gun?" And I'd be like, "All right, fine." And I'd do it. And then he would always be on the stage during the thing just doing that. It was so funny. But then the doors would open. People would start coming in. I'd make sure that the girls at the door were doing okay. They had enough bands. They knew what bands were going where. I would make sure that all of the lists, like the guest lists, were put in correctly, and that we're sticking to those guest lists too. Like,
Right.
if not,
No one else gets
fortunately,
added
this
in.
is a business. You do need to buy a ticket.
Right.
And then after that, I would just wait for our drivers to either bring the artists there, or I would go with the drivers to get them from the hotel. And then I'd bring them there, and I'd kind of just hang out with them the whole time and make sure that they had everything that they needed. And they always did. So it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
great. I gotta say, I've met so many cool artists from this job, and I've met so many people from all over the world that are so kind and so interesting to talk to. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
No, it's so much that you've just said of like a back end work that I just don't think of as an average festival
Yeah.
goer, or even like myself. I make content, but it's like I don't think about like setting up the bar and the
Mm.
POS system and
Well,
just like all that stuff that I just
yeah.
like. Can I get a drink? And they're like, sure. Like, there's something on the back end of
Yeah.
that, of course. I mean, like, I know it's there, but I know until you brought it to my attention, I'm
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, that is something they probably have to worry about. Like,
Mhm.
especially I'm thinking like, because you've done events here in St. Pete and Tampa and
Yeah.
in the area, and then I'm thinking like, oh my God, to bring all that out in the middle of nowhere to
Mhm.
be like, we got a computer system that's working. Like, that's insane. I'm starting to
Yes.
think about it. I'm like,
Oh my
holy
gosh.
crap.
And we'd always have these problems where like the Wi-Fi would go out or something, and it's such a small thing, but you don't understand how
Everything is
everything goes to shit
connected.
immediately. Nothing can operate. Like you can't get the artists in, you can't get the visuals working, you can't get the bars working. So everything just comes to a complete halt.
Oh
But
my gosh.
we always fix it. So it was never really a problem.
How often has that happened while you were
For
there with
me,
the
it all
Wi-Fi going
we so we would get these routers that would make sure that the Wi-Fi would spread properly
out?
throughout the venue,
Right.
especially when we were at the factory in St. Pete,
Yeah.
because it's an outdoor venue and we wouldn't really do the inside too much. But we would bring those things and they plug in and make sure that the Wi-Fi was spreading everywhere. And thank God, because if we didn't get that, oh my God, I could not even deal with it. And we never took cash for these events, so they can't pay cash if we don't have a POS, then they're screwed, you know. But I gotta say, all the people that on staff for one of us, they were great with being able to handle certain things like that because they have been with the company for a while and they also have outside jobs that are similar to what they were doing with us. So every single person was perfectly vetted and also gave like a huge crap about what they were doing
Right.
there, you know.
Yeah.
And it was more, we were a family and we're in it together. If we're all in the weeds, we're all in the weeds. If we're all doing great, we're all doing great, you know. So
Yeah.
that was a big factor. And another thing, again, with once you have great human capital, that is the most valuable thing to your company, especially with these kinds of events.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I've noticed that even on like even at the small level, the startup level, one
Mm-hmm.
and two man shop, if you're thinking about bringing in a third, it's so vital
Mm-hmm.
that you've got someone that's like on board with your messaging and your idea.
Yeah.
Because if they are, you guys are gonna click and things are just gonna flow and it's
Yep.
gonna get moving. You're gonna get able to get to that next leg or whatever. But yeah, it's definitely important.
A very hard thing to find nowadays with people, especially in a work sense, is that no one cares. You got to actually
Yeah.
give a shit. Excuse my language, but
No,
that
you're
you
good.
have to.
You
Like,
guys, it's all
you
good.
know. And a lot of people, they don't understand what a hustle is, and they don't understand that you need to care about what you're doing. And if unfortunately a lot of people don't understand that, and they find themselves in these positions where they don't enjoy their job or they don't enjoy what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and they wonder why. And I'm like, well, dude, you got to make sure you care, you know. And if you don't care, then why are you there, you know?
Yes, yes. And unfortunately, a lot of people can get stuck in jobs where they don't care.
Yeah.
Sometimes you take a job, you start out caring, then don't. There's definitely, there's always different circumstances. I
Yeah.
can speak from my own experience. I've had a job where like I got there, super pumped, super
Hmm.
excited, couple months in, I'm like, this isn't
Yep.
what I thought
We've
it
all
would
been
be.
there.
And that's when it's interesting too of like that flip. Like
Yes.
um it took me a while to realize I don't care about this job.
Mhm.
Probably need to start leave,
Yep.
and then starting to get. And that's also weird too when you get into that moment where like you realize you're in a profession or you're in a career path that you don't like, and you're like, I put all my,
Oh
you
yeah.
think you put all your eggs in that basket. I should say you think that at the time, but it
Yeah.
takes you gotta just like breathe,
Yeah.
figure it out, and it'll come to
Have a
you.
little faith.
Yeah, it'll come to you, and,
I
and then once you have an idea of like, okay, I think I want to go do this now, just
Yeah.
start putting
Go
it out
for it.
there. Start going. Like we were saying
Yeah.
earlier, start going for it. Start
Make the
asking around.
first
Start
step.
knocking around. It is funny. I'm gonna bring us back to that because you brought up a good point. Yeah, you're good. Um, it's funny that when you start putting things out there into the universe,
Mm.
whatever you want to, God,
Manifesting.
energy,
Yeah.
manifestation, however you want to put it as,
Yeah.
it is weird how like it's things kind of start to come back that way. And I always think of that like um just in general, like when I perfect example for me is like when I started this podcast ages ago, so long ago. Like it was weird how some bigger people in the scene, hey, I like what you're doing. I'll come on your podcast. I was like, what? And then like I would ask some other people, and then people would be like, yeah, I'll come on. And I'm like, wait, this is so bizarre because I'm a
Yeah.
nobody. My first,
Oh no.
first, of course, everyone starts when you're a nobody. But like it was just crazy to me to think like I'm putting all this effort into it, and it's like weird how it's just coming back. Like
Yeah.
looking back, I'm like, I don't know why that person decided to come on. Like I
Yeah.
have no idea, but they did, and it
They
worked
did.
out. And without them, I wouldn't have gotten to where I'm at now, and yada yada. But like it's crazy to think of that, like because I was putting it out and it was coming back, and
Yeah.
I tell people that all the time. Even with I had a buddy recently who lost his job
Mm.
down in the dumps, and I said, "Listen, man, you just gotta like, what do you want to do? I want to go into this XYZ, type of job. Okay, perfect. Now you
Mhm.
know. Start asking around, and I want
Mhm.
you to apply to like." I set a ridiculous number of jobs, but that's because I want him to get back to work as soon as
Yeah.
possible. I was like, you need to apply to like 10, 15 times jobs a day.
Yep.
Just that in that field, exactly what you want. And I was like, I promise you, you're gonna start getting interviews. Like, and
Mhm.
if you don't get the first one, it's okay. You got practice for the next one. You're gonna get the right one, but it's gonna come to you because the
Yes.
universe is gonna see that you're putting in a lot of effort for this one thing. It's gonna reward you for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And every time, a lot of people take a lot of opportunities, especially with jobs, at least. Like, they have an interview and they get through the whole process and they don't end up getting the job. But you got to take it more as a positive note. You're like, hey, I got through this. I did it. And I learned a lot from what I was saying. And, like, maybe I could improve a little bit. Maybe there's something else I could do.
Yeah.
But I did get this far. A lot of people can't even make that the
Initial
initial,
step.
like,
We're going
yeah,
back. We're going
exactly.
full circle, but
Yeah,
yeah.
it's the first step, I'm telling you. And, like, it's it's so hard for people to understand that everything in life is a lesson in a way, or it's only there to benefit you. Yes, there's some things that go wrong, but there's always a greater reason, and there's
Mm.
always a reason that maybe something bad happens in your life, but you could make light out of it. And instead of going and feeling bad for yourself and just going in the dumps, you could say, this is going to be my reason to grind and get back to where I want to be,
Yep.
and you're never going to meet like someone that just became a millionaire overnight over nothing.
Yep.
There's some work put behind everything.
Of
And
course.
especially right now with social media too, it doesn't portray that enough, unfortunately. And I think a lot of people don't understand how much work goes into a lot of people, like a lot of things, like even TikTok famous people, they have to work a lot. And like content creation is a lot of time and effort. And
Yeah.
like everyone just thinks that they just sit there and film a video and it takes them like 30 minutes. Like sometimes it takes people a whole day, like just to get the certain video right. Like I see Tasty, like it's a cooking TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
I saw my friend works for one of those kinds of companies, and the amount of work that goes into just making a bowl of pasta to video is insane, insane. And there's so
Yeah.
many like issues that go with
Yeah.
it and stuff like you could you're editing a podcast. Like I don't even know how to do that, like
Yeah, there's so much on the back end, and it's like it's funny too because from a creator standpoint, like you have moments where you're like, what am I doing? Like you're
yeah.
just like, oh my god, and like and then or you, the worst is like you sometimes you put in so much effort to a video and it just doesn't do good,
But that's okay.
and
You
that's
you
okay,
you,
right,
you
right.
had practice doing it,
And then there's other ones where like I've just like film like 2 seconds and it goes crazy
Yeah.
and you're like, all right, cool. But it is, the premise behind it is still the same. It's like the
Yeah.
constant work behind it is what's,
Hmm.
again, you're putting it out there, it's coming back to you, yada yada. But like it
Yeah.
is like, yes, some videos you might have put more time in. However, in the overall aspect of things, you're still grinding away at it
Yes.
on the back end, and
And
it comes.
people also got to understand they're always going to be their own worst critic too.
Yes.
A lot of people
Yeah.
are very very hard on themselves where they don't need to be, and I've done this myself. Like, I'm very hard on myself too, and I put a lot of pressure on myself for not being completely successful yet, and I'm only 24 years old, and
Oh my
it's
gosh,
like
I feel that. I
and I'm like, no one's made it. Like, some people do, but like they're lucky, and like
yeah.
there it
Yeah.
takes time, and I have you have your whole life ahead of you. And I saw this it was this little video that Eddie Murphy did, and he said you only have really 75 hard years of your life, and it doesn't seem like that's a short amount of time, but in a way it is. There's only 75 summers, 75 winters, 75 autumns, 75 opportunities a year to like get to make your time useful and like get where you want to go. And I really resonated with that little video that he made, because it's true, and I'm already at three quarters of like a third of the way there too. So I'm like, I don't really have that much time, but there every day is a new day, and every day you got to wake up and make sure that you're making yourself just like 1% better at least, and it'll eventually get there.
Yeah, as long as you're continually trying to improve and you're consistent and you
Yeah.
keep growing, it's gonna
Yeah.
it's gonna keep stacking. It's
And
gonna
that
keep
doesn't
going.
even just relate to like your job or your occupation. It relates to your relationships.
Hmm.
Relates to your own relationship with yourself, and how content you can be with yourself as well, And if you are going through a rough spot, like we all have, and I've struggled with like depression a lot too. And the one thing that you can do is go, hey, tomorrow's a new day. I'm going to wake up and I'm going to try to accomplish something, and I'm going to try to get something going for
Yeah,
that day, and you'll feel better once you accomplish just one thing,
agreed. For
you
me,
know.
when I was depressed, it was like when I realized it. It's always weird because you don't
You
realize it
don't
for a little
realize
bit,
it.
and then all of
Yeah.
a sudden you're like, oh, I think I'm,
I think I'm
yeah,
sad.
I
Like,
think
yeah.
I'm not doing well.
Yeah.
Like, have those moments.
I
But
feel that.
like, when you realize that, for me, it was always, I'm gonna just do like one thing. Because I'm gonna digress a quick bit here, but even when I wasn't depressed, sometimes I get like, I want to do the X, I want to do this, I want to do that.
Hmm.
Like, I have so many things I want to do that it, like, stagnates me because I'm like,
Yeah.
where do I start? But then like, and
Hmm.
then that gets me depressed because I'm like, I haven't started. So like,
Yeah.
there's that. But like, when I realize that, it's so important to realize like, I'm gonna do one thing tomorrow,
Yes.
one thing. I'm gonna make sure I just do that one thing,
Yep.
and then if even if I don't get anything else I want to do done, at least I'm making hold myself to that one thing. And something about when you can build off of that like one thing, like just make it simple. Let's, for example, let's just
Yeah.
say like, I'm gonna go to the gym in the morning,
Yeah.
and you wake up and you go to the gym in the morning. Something about like, I've accomplished that one task that was supposed to be super hard. I've got it done. It's like, then the rest of the day's good to go.
Yeah.
Easy. It's great.
Yes.
And yeah, just something. That's my best advice for those that are down, depressed, or sad. It's like, just find one thing, and it doesn't have to be gym. It could be literally, you could just be like, I'm gonna go for a sunset walk,
Yeah.
and boom, that's it. That's all you have to do. Just make sure
Yeah.
you get there.
I'm gonna make sure that I go to the grocery store today and I
Yeah,
get healthy food, or like I'm gonna make sure that I call a relative and
yeah.
tell
I'm
them
gonna
I
call my
love
mom.
them,
Yeah.
something like that.
Something
Just
so simple.
something wholesome. I think a lot of people stray away from how beneficial doing wholesome things are. Just especially even if it's just for yourself too, like making sure that you like maybe read a book and like sit outside and be in the sunshine. And unfortunately some people don't have a lot of sunshine, but like do something that you feel that you would could be proud of too.
Yeah,
I always every day I try to wake up and I try to think about one thing I could do that day that would be positive for not only myself but for somebody else as well. And it doesn't always have to be about you. You don't have to do something that only benefits you. You could just go out and like maybe hold a door for somebody in public, and
yeah.
that's just a good way to be a good person,
Yeah, give a
and
nice smile. Ask some, ask the
how
girl
are
at
you?
Starbucks, how you
Yes.
doing today? Give her a bigger
Oh,
tip than normal. I
that's
don't
a
know,
that's a
something.
big thing that I've noticed with a lot of people. how people treat other people, especially strangers in a certain situation. My biggest pet peeve with certain people, or like a red flag, I would say, if I'm like going on a date, is if they are not treating the waitress or like whoever is working properly, because I'm a bartender, so I get the worst of the worst and the best of the best at the
Right,
same time.
right.
And
Get the highs and the lows.
yes, and more lows, unfortunately, because people drinking is, oh my god. But a big telltale sign about how people treat people is that how they deal with strangers, like saying hello, looking someone in the eye and being like, how are you, and actually meaning it, and
Mm,
not just being like, thanks, and then like walking out the door. Like, I was at Starbucks the other day, and the one of the girls that works there, I love her so much. She always remembers my name, and she always says, "Good morning, how are you?" And I say, "Hello, how are you?" Like, we have a little small talk. And then there's this other guy that comes in, picks up his coffee. They say hello to him. He doesn't even say a word back to them. Like, people,
yeah.
there are people that mean things, like, and just because they're in a certain position in life other than you does not give you the right to be disrespectful. And I I firmly, if when I have children, I'm gonna say you need to make sure you look people in the eyes and you say hello to them, and you need to make sure that you are respectful of their job. And if someone's like serving you and they're not really having the best service, maybe they're having a bad day, and you don't know that, and you just always carry yourself with kindness, and that's the best way to live, I feel like. And if I was to die tomorrow, I would want people to say that she was a really nice girl, and she was always kind. And that's one thing I'm always going to live by.
I think that's the best compliment you can get when people
Yeah,
are like
right?
really nice. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
like
Like
you
that
got a
was
good
really nice of
heart.
you. Yeah, that yes, because our world highlights so much of like the dark and the bad
Yes.
stuff, and it's like just and that can like just knock people down, and even
Mm-hmm.
yourself. It can days it's like, oh my god, it's always bad, but like
Yeah.
you got to be. I think I've said this before on here, but there's a quote where it's like you've got to clean yourself up and be the best person before you go and change the world. You can't
Yep.
be a
Mm-hmm.
dick and, and mean to people and
Yeah,
try to change the
exactly.
world and expect. You know what I mean? You gotta
Yeah.
show kindness and do the right things, and that's gonna bring about the change in the world that we all want to see. So
Yeah. And speaking off of that, that also goes with the relationships. Unfortunately, I'm actually going through a breakup right now, but it was out of love and maturity that we're breaking up. But my biggest thing was that we both need to work on ourselves before we can dive into something. And you can't be dependent on somebody if you can't be dependent on yourself,
yeah,
and independence is such a gift you can give yourself too. And not not that it's bad to lean on somebody or anything like that, but being able to sit alone in your own house or something by yourself and be happy and genuinely mean it is such a gift. And like, I've been in so many situations where I don't feel that way, and like, I've been really sad before, but when I do have these highs where I'm just sitting here and I'm like, I love my apartment, or like I'm just like looking around and I'm like, I love this. Like, it's silly to some people, but it's so big for me. Like, I've been in points in my life where I'm like, I just want to be happy. And when I catch these little times where I'm like, I'm very content right now, I love to absorb that, and it's such a big deal to me.
no, I mean absolutely. It's so important to just appreciate the small things,
Yeah.
whatever it might be. It is
Yeah.
so it's so vital to build those blocks up again and like build your happiness, build your
Yeah.
mentality, like all that stuff. And just in general, like not even necessarily if you're in a bad spot, but just on a day-to-day basis, just
Yeah.
appreciate. I mean, literally like driving home and being like, "Damn, that
Like the
sunset looks
sun,
really sick today."
exactly. Or
Like
like
this,
this song
yeah,
I'm playing, or like the weather is great. I'm a huge believer of the small things. When I was 8, I had a birthday, and I had a couple of like cool gifts, like how your birthday usually goes when you're 8.
right.
My neighbor got me a pack of bendy straws because she knew that I love bendy straws. To this day, I think that was my best present I've ever
Oh
gotten.
my
I
god,
was like, yes, bendy straws, like, and I love that. I remember being so ecstatic, and my parents being like, "You really just like bendy straws? Like, this is all we had to get
we
you?"
got
And
you
I
a
was like,
capsule.
"Yo, it's awesome though. Like, they're straws that bend. Like, I don't know why you're
Yeah,
not understanding." Like, and
like
people got to think a little bit like an 8-year old. Like, you got to go back and like let your ego kind of digress and be like, "This is cool. Like, and I enjoy this, and it might not be like the coolest thing to other people, but it's something that brings me joy."
I think the realest joy in life is not growing up in a sense.
Yeah.
Like obviously there's adult things, but like keeping your inner child alive
Yeah.
is so just so vital. I mean I can't imagine like just putting that away and like how that would be, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
like getting too like taking your corporate job and like being all Mr. Corporate and like
Mhm.
going home and also being Mr. Corporate.
Yeah.
Like what? That doesn't sound any fun. Like
I know.
I'd rather be at a job where I can have fun and joke around
Yeah.
and hang out. Like that just never, obviously, yes, there are moments where you have to be more mature, but like keep that inner child, keep that
Yeah.
alive. That fun. I guess the better thing to say is like keep that fun side of you
Mhm.
alive and well nourished and fed, and like that's where you're gonna like experience the best things of life.
The
Is like
little
letting those, the
joys.
little
The
joys.
little
Yeah,
joys
yeah.
go such a long way. Like I always love being like outdoors. That's a whole reason why I moved to Florida is because I just absolutely hate winter and I can't do
Valid.
snow. I can't do it. I It was just too much for me. And ever since I moved here, I just waking up and seeing the sunshine and that it's like at least 80 degrees out. I'm like, thank God, you know. And I'm like, if you don't even believe in that, like whatever your spirituality, but just be like thank you, you know, to something. And because it's always there's always a greater good going for you, you know. And like someone maybe not be someone you know, something and someone has your back. So
Yes, of course. Yeah, I think that's true. I think another thing is like when you said looking at the greater good. I think it's so easy for all of us, everyone, to like when you're in that storm of whatever
yeah.
chaos, whatever it is, that it's so hard to see that good that's coming down the
Yeah.
road, and it's very hard to see, especially when you're in the storm. But that's when somebody outside of it's gonna go, hey, you know, I know this sucks, and I can tell you're
Yeah.
in it, but I can see that it's gonna benefit you in the long run. It's
Yeah.
so key when someone pipes in and comes in all different forms. But
I love when people do that. Like there's this one girl from my college that I we weren't particularly close or anything like that, but I ran into her a couple of weeks ago and she was like, "Hey, you seem great. Like you seem like you're killing it at life. Like you seem very happy." And I was like, "Thank you." Like that meant
you
like
know, to hear
so
that, yeah,
much, you know? And I was just like, we like barely knew each other that well, but
yeah.
just someone pointing it out and like that's all that gave me a very big inspiration to like make sure I'm checking in on people like that I maybe estranged a little bit. But my one friend, she had a baby and like we haven't spoken in a while because she was dealing with her pregnancy and like becoming a new mother. And I randomly texted her and she was like, I miss you so much, like everything's great. Like, and I was like, how's your kid? And she's like, it's awesome, I'd love for you to meet him. And we reconnected just like that. And just reaching out, like just giving someone a little offering like, hey, how are you, or like you seem good, and like a tiny little compliment too always gets people in such a better headspace too. So
Oh, 100%. Especially because you don't know whatever, like, same thing like we're talking about. Like, you don't know what
yeah.
everyone's dealing
Yeah.
with. You don't know what they're working at, like, yada,
Mhm.
yada. And, like, that little message could be, like, the thing that gets them over the hump to be
Yeah.
like, oh my God, I need to keep going the way I'm going because
Yeah.
this is going good. Like, I remember with, not to make it about myself, but as an example, like with content, like I remember there was a time where I was just like, what am I doing? Like, you know,
Yeah.
just like thinking, you're like overthinking, and you're like, God dang it, what is this? And then somebody was just like at a festival was like, hey, you're that guy. And I
Yeah.
was like, I am that guy. And then he was like, dude, I love your shit. Keep it up. And then he just walked away. And I was like, I just remember that. I'm like, oh my God, it was the greatest thing ever. Like,
you I am that
I remember
guy.
like turning to my friends. I'm like, did you hear that? They're like, good job. Like,
That's awesome.
but it's so, it is like just going back to that, just be kind. And
Yeah.
it's gonna, just don't know who that's gonna help and what day it's gonna
Yep.
help. And of course, it's
Mhm.
hard to do that every day, but do your best to just be kind. And if you're in a bad mood, just don't take it out on people.
Yeah, exactly. Like, or just exercise it in a healthy fashion. Like, go to the
Yeah.
gym or something, or
Yeah.
like go
Yeah.
for a run, or I don't know. That's how I deal with a lot of my anger is just going and working out. And then by the time you're done working out, you're like, was it really that big of a deal? Probably not, you know?
Yeah, the gym and the gym's so vital. Like as I've gotten or just being physically active is so beneficial to your mental clarity.
Yes.
Like in any way, shape, or form, whatever you can figure out. Like it's so funny. I'm even saying this, but I've been playing so much pickleball recently.
Really? What is up with this
It's
pickleball trend? I don't
it
understand it.
is
I'm
a big
sorry.
trend. No, you're good. You're good. I mean, I played like 4 months ago, and I was like, oh my God, I love this. And I just stopped, and then I picked it back up, and I was like, this is great, and I love it, and it's like my form of cardio, and like whatever. It's so funny to say
Yeah.
that, but like at the end of it, I'm like, I'll play till I'm like exhausted, but then at
Yeah.
the end, I'm like, I just feel like the mental
Yeah.
clarity of just like
Yeah.
running for an
Endorphins,
hour, and
yo.
the endorphins
There we
of it
go.
is crazy. But it's anything is what I'm getting at here. Like gym, running, whatever it is your thing, find it, do
Yeah.
something physical because it does help with, like you said, like bad days. It helps get the anger out if you're angry.
Mm,
And even on a good day, like it's just like you can ride those good endorphins out
yeah,
as you're going. Like that's a pure and simple way of looking at it. But
exactly.
I'm gonna pivot here. I
Yeah.
got one more question for you.
Yeah.
We've been talking a lot, but
Yes.
so theme of the podcast, ask every guest this.
Yeah.
How are you living yourself for every day?
Um, I would say not taking myself too seriously every day. I try to treat every day like a new chapter of a book, and I try to make sure that today is this new adventure and trying to make it seem a little less serious than it actually is. Like, even just going to the grocery store, like, let's go for it. Like, I'm going to play a good song in the car on the way there. And when I'm in there, I'm going to walk by somebody and say hello and, like, get what I want to get and, like, a little snack extra for me, and, like, just an example like that. And making sure that I'm starting every day and going out with a positive note and not going out with a negative connotation on
Mm-hmm.
everything. And I try to also make sure that I'm making sure my personality and I stay true to that because I'm a very silly, goofy person, and as you know, and I always make sure that I stay true to that and not try to act outside of what I know I am too.
Yeah,
You
keep
know,
that inner child, like you're saying, keep that
Yep.
inner child
Inner
alive. That
child
silly
and be
goofiness, and
true to who you are and true to what your beliefs are, being kind to people and going out of your way at least once. I try to always, once a day, I try to go out of my way to just talk to somebody else and like make them feel a little better, like a little compliment or just like checking up on an old friend or something like that
yeah.
because it I get a lot more benefit out of seeing people be happy too. I've
Mm-hmm.
noticed. And that's not always for everybody. Like sometimes that's not what everyone needs to do, but it's what gets me going. I'm like I love seeing people happy and it makes me happy too. So,
I think if everyone did that, though, we would. I do think.
yeah.
I mean, you say you're not sure if everyone. I do believe if everyone was
Yeah.
like that, where they were like went out of their way to make people happy and like, because then it would just like, it just keeps coming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it keeps coming back, and then everyone's happy. Like I can't imagine a world where everybody
Yeah.
was like, just like you said, there's like one small thing a day. Like, hey, I like what you did to your hair. Like,
Yeah.
something so small that maybe you've noticed, or
Exactly.
hey, that's a new sweater. I like that sweater you got
Yep.
going. Like, it's just like that small thing where someone's like, this is a new sweater. And
And
they're like,
and remembering something about that someone told you. Like I have a lot of coworkers at my bar and we always talk about our lives
mhm,
and stuff and just like someone remembering like a tiny little aspect of what you said and then checking in on it like the next week like
yeah,
is such a big deal for me sometimes. And a lot of people will end up moving to different states or like they don't have a really big support system at home or something like that and you have to kind of create your own support
mm,
system. And I always make sure that I'm surrounding myself with people that are like-minded, I good people as well. And if there is somebody struggling, I always let them know that I'm an open ear and I'm always there for them because I would want the same too. And I don't do it out of that mentality of like, oh, I hope that it comes back for me. You got to do it because you actually care,
right,
you know?
yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand that
No, I
lately.
agree because there's definitely times where you are like, you've had friends like, I did that for you. You did that,
Yeah.
and you're like, well, that's not,
You got to always put something out with absolutely zero intention of
no
getting
intent.
anything
Right?
back,
Yeah. Yes.
you know?
Yes. Yes. I agree with that. You shouldn't have an expectation of others. You should just do it because
Yeah.
you want to. You're buying your buddy a coffee not because you expect them to buy you a drink
Yeah.
later, but just because you're like, I just you look tired. You should
Yeah.
get a coffee.
And honestly, like an opposite opinion on this is that sometimes there are bad people out there, and a lot of people get really hurt by there. You could have a 10 positive things happen to you in that day, and one negative thing happen, and you'll harp on that one negative thing. And one thing that my dad said like growing up that I kind of just brushed off like all the time. I'd be like, yeah, okay, like whatever you say, dad. He'd always say anytime I'd be in a situation where someone like made me upset or something, he'd be like, what do I always say? Some people just suck. It's such a simple, stupid line, but it is so profound in a way
Yeah.
because it's so cleansing to just be like, it's out of my hands and I have nothing to do with it. That's just their problem. If they want to be bad, if they want to be mean, let them do it. Some people just
Don't let it
suck.
affect
Yes.
you at the end of the day.
Yes.
That's a great quote. I mean, I've I guess I have heard of it. I've never thought of it in that sense of like, yeah,
Hmm.
it's just out of my,
Yeah.
it's out of my realm. I can't
And
do anything about it.
being content with that is such a big deal.
Yeah, no, that you've got me thinking now with that.
Yeah.
That's
And
for sure.
I
Like,
was younger, I would be like, this is such a stupid thing to say. And as I got older, it would resonate so much more. The more life things I'd go through, I was like, you're right. Some people do just suck. And you just kind of have to pick up and move on and be like,
it's
that's your issue. And I'm
it's
going to keep going.
it's so vital to protect your own energy, and that's a way to do it.
Yep.
The thing that gets bad is when you get that slippery slope of like, oh, I don't care, and
Yeah.
then that's where it gets hectic, because if you don't really care, then what's good? That's just something
Yeah.
about you. Like, you're
Mm.
not trying. There's something going on if you're just like about everything, But it
Don't
is,
stoop to their level.
yes, don't
Ever.
stoop to their
Don't
level,
ever
and
stoop to someone's level if you feel like you have been wrong. Always go the most mature and be the bigger person route because it always pays off in the end.
it does. As hard as it is, it does pay off in the end.
Sometimes
I
we want to
agree.
go crazy, but hold on. I'm telling you, the long run game is way better than the short term.
In just about everything.
In everything.
In
I
just about
swear.
everything. Yeah.
Patience is a virtue. I'm
Yes.
telling you, no one has patience nowadays.
No, no. It's like more and more with the socials and this quick swipes
Yeah.
and the
We need
swipe right, swipe left.
immediate reciprocation of
Yeah.
positive feelings. That's the problem lately. And people, they got to learn how to put the phone down and learn how to connect with people
Yeah.
correctly.
Good things. Good things take a while.
Yep. Good
Nothing
things always come with time.
right. I
Yep.
mean, even like people that are the best athletes in the world, they weren't just like one day the best
Yeah,
athlete.
they didn't just
athlete
like
in the
hop
world.
out of their mom
Yeah.
and be like, "I'm gonna play basketball and this is going to be
Yeah.
my
It took
life."
18 years.
It took
and,
them a
and
minute,
probably
yeah,
a lot of practice
yeah.
to get there.
And if you really put yourself into a very constructive situation and made sure that you were focusing really hard, you would there's no way you wouldn't get better, But it's hard to do that. Like you said, self-discipline is a very hard thing to do.
It is a hard thing to do, but in a sense, we're right. Like it's just that patience. That is another thing. Is like, can you, when it comes to like things you really want, and you really want it,
Yeah.
can you have that patience of like, this might take me 5 years?
Yeah.
Especially I look at like with DJs and producers and stuff in the industry. It's like there's a lot that have been around for a while,
Oh yeah.
and it took them 10 years for that one song finally just broke, and
Yeah.
now they're bigger.
I mean, like look at Excision,
Yeah.
for example. Like he wasn't huge the whole time.
No.
Like,
by no means, yeah.
and thank God he became huge because he's awesome, And like, but it takes a while, especially if it's in a certain industry or certain like realm of people that isn't usually mainstream or very like what the popular thing is to do.
Mhm.
If you believe that's what you want to do and that's what you are good at too, and you can constantly do it and be joyful doing it, have a little faith. Like, give it some time because people will catch on and see how great it is and see how much it makes you happy. It'll make them happy eventually. So
Yeah, dedication, patience, and just
self
discipline to keep up with it, because that patience part, that's where the patience and the discipline like corrode together, where
Yeah.
you're like, all right, I'm doing this, and you're like, by like a year in, you're like, all right, I'm still doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what if, but like the next day,
Yep.
just be there.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you right there on that. Well, I loved everything you had to say. I
Thank
loved
you.
that whole thing about living yourself every day. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Going out of your way to be nice,
Yeah.
finding the small positive things, the goofy things, being yourself. That's so important, and hopefully someone needed to hear that, because it's so key
Yeah.
to being
Grace,
you and all that.
grace, kindness, class, and respect. Those are my four
Grace,
favorite.
kindness, class, respect. Okay.
Yep, my
All right.
4 favorite attributes to have, and hopefully I always have them.
Well, I think you do, and like I said, I loved what you had to say with that. I think that's a great way to close it out. We're gonna close it out with that. Tell people where to follow you, who to follow, if you want
I'm
that.
Marge Nelen. My Instagram is MARG. And wait, cut that.
Cut it out.
I forgot my own name. My Instagram is Marge Nelen. I'm out in Tampa, Florida. Come see me at Bar Howard. I work there every weekend. Come see Mike Putman at the Ritz. It goes by Pushman. He's a resident every Saturday. Absolutely kicks ass. Other than that,
We'll see you both more in the scene, I'm sure.
yes,
Bye,
definitely.
everybody.
Bye.
Peace.